Hobart. Brian, I don't know if you can do both, but if you could, I don't know. If the beginning of that last clip needs to be cut off, feel free to cut it off. So here we go live. We've just been live forever, and now we're going to go live ever again. Sevan Podcast, episode 91, the 2021 CrossFit Games leaderboard predictions. We are now, this is the women, not the men, the women. And James, Hobart, and Brian appear to be eating. Brian ordered room service. He's sitting in his hotel room in Madison, Wisconsin. James is sitting in a VRBO in Madison, Wisconsin.
I'm in a hotel in Madison.
You're in a hotel too. You bring your own food. Brian does room service.
Yeah, we have a good setup. Meat, seeds, nuts, veggies, baby.
Professional athlete versus professional analyst. And me, Sevan Matosi, and I'm on my, as I was chatting with James Hobart, my 60th week of fasting for 36 hours. I stop eating every Saturday night. I don't start again until Monday morning. That's why I look so youthful, even though I'm 112.
Sevan, I feel like we should do the same disclaimer just in case people didn't watch the first one when they're watching this. Is, we're going to put out the list of all the athletes competing at the games this year, 1 through 39 in the women's case. We mean no disrespect to any of them for any of the rankings. We understand that they've already proven themselves and their capacity just to get to this point. But we also understand that it's a competition of the highest caliber of the sport right now, and that someone has to finish in every single place on the leaderboard. And so this is my best approximation of what's going to happen. And I will also just admit up front that I'm less confident on the women's side than the men's side. This is a crazy competitive field.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Real quick. Sorry, Hobart, and then you go. I in the men's competition, when Brian was doing the rankings, 38 through 1, which was fantastic, Brian. Thank you. I was also rating the top 5 best bodies, at the CrossFit Games in the men's competition, and I didn't get to recap that at the end. But the top 5 in no particular order are Guilherme from Brazil. Finland was it Finland? No, number 2 is Latvia. What was that guy's name?
Wildis Upanex?
Yeah, him. Yeah, great name. Number 3 was Adrian Munveler.
Nice.
Number 4 was Noah Olson. Like I said, not in any particular order. And number 5, which I didn't even get to mention on the show, and I apologize, was Brent Fikowski. I thought those were now. Brian judges how these cars will perform on the track. I simply judge them by the way they look. Okay, women's competition. Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Hobart?
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of. I was just going to say, you forget too that there are athletes who go out there and say, "I'm just here to have fun," and though I don't really trust that games athletes feel that way, I feel like if you are saying that, you kind of got to be at the mercy of wherever Brian places you.
Fair.
I don't know if having fun is the motive for any of them, but I think there are athletes with different perspectives and realistic understandings of what this particular year at the games means for them. There's obviously several that are here trying to win. There's a huge handful that are striving to be either podium, top 5, top 10, or top half. And then there's definitely a group of who are saying, this is an incredible experience and maybe once in a lifetime opportunity for me, and I want to make the most of it, enjoy it, try to do the best I can, and I'm happy with wherever that places me.
I don't remember what tennis match it was, but it was a few weeks ago, and it was Nadal versus Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic. It wasn't Wimbledon. I think it was the French Open or something. It wasn't on grass. But anyway, I haven't watched a lot of tennis in my life. Actually, none. I was watching that match, and then afterwards I went to Avi's tennis coach, who told me to Adam to tell me to watch it. And I said, "Hey, dude, those guys do not look like they're fucking having fun. They look like they're miserable." And he said, "Dude, it's a fight. Do fighters look happy?" And in that respect, that I get it. Like, there's fighters you see in the flow. There's athletes you see in the flow. But how many times do you see them happy? I mean, as soon as I think of basketball, when I picture Kobe Bryant, he has a scowl on his face at all times. So, I don't know. I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Brian. Like, I don't think it's a time. I don't know what the emotion is, but I don't think it's a time to be happy. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you transcend emotion. Number 30. Wait, how many women are there?
39. One woman from Russia unable to make the trip.
What the fuck is up with Russia? Why can't we bring them here?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer, unfortunately.
So lame. Is it government shit?
Okay, Roman Krenikov is a unique situation. In all the other situations, I believe it's just the inability to procure the required visa in the time frame that they had to do so.
Wow, we're already talking smart on this show. Procure. When you're chewing your food, Hobart, don't lean that close into the camera.
I know, I didn't mean to. I felt really bad.
By the way, I think I saw a hair on your face. I never thought you could grow hair, but when you leaned in, I thought I actually saw some proof of being over the age of 16.
It's just bad internet. Let's roll. Here we go. 39.
Thank you.
39 is the one and only qualifier from the continent of Africa. Her name is Michelle Bazinet. She actually lives in the United States, and she does have a little bit of competition experience. I don't know too much about her, but she was at Fitness in Cape Town, and she was at one other. Oh, that was the one, and she was at Filthy 150. I think she's decent and a good representative of the African continent and where their level of competition is at right now. I'm not sure she deserves the bottom spot here, but I need to see her compete against a field that isn't just the women from Africa. So.
You know what's funny is you can tell the people who've watched the first show have now had a few drinks. Ron Sutton just said, "Can Travis Mayer make the women's top 10?" How tall is she? This picture makes her look like she's a giant.
Oh, let's pull up her stats. Michelle is 5'5", 145, so basically a optimal size for a female competitor at the games, historically speaking.
And how old?
24.
Oh, she's young. Okay. And is this her first games?
Yes.
And don't we have her lined up to do a podcast in the next 48 hours? I recognize the name.
We're trying to make that happen. Yeah, she seems very willing to do that despite being very close to the games.
Yeah. Michelle, disregard. I will be extremely nice to you. Disregard Brian's placement of you in the rankings. Number 38.
No, you got her pronunciation down. I'll let you handle this one.
Okay. Good with names. Number 38 is... By the way, Hobart and I have never seen this list before. That's why I can't say it until I see the card at the same time you guys see it. So... Oh, yeah. Miss Choi. I totally know her.
That's right. Sung-Young Choi.
Sung-Young Choi.
From the Republic of Korea, maybe betterly known as South Korea. And she's the only representative from Asia because the Russian woman was unable to travel here. She's been training in Northern California for a couple weeks now. She looks very good. She looks like she can move very well. She seems to be testing a lot of the things that she's putting a lot of stuff out on Instagram. I kind of got lucky to come across her Instagram actually because it has nothing to do with her name. It's a really strange, it's like Jaws _ JEJU or something like that. And anyway, I think she's got the capacity to compete at the games and do okay here, but know very little about her and looking forward to learning more.
What's her Instagram again? I'm going to follow her.
Jaws, JAWS _ JEJU.
I think Jeju is a city or it's a part of South Korea.
Oh, got it.
Or
JAWS _ JEJU. Yep, got her. I wonder if she was. Someone said she was in Northern California. I wonder, or Brian said that. I wonder if she was training with Carolyn Prevost at all, because I think she was in Northern California too. Do you know where she was training, Brian?
I think it was NC Fit actually. I'm not certain of that, but something I seem to remember seeing that in one of the backgrounds or something.
She chose a good. Oh, I need to like this video. I'm going to be the 5th like of this video. Okay, number 37.
Oh, 37. I got one sec.
Al, can you hear me better? While Brian goes and gets his room service. I don't know I don't know how to turn my mic up. It looks like it's full blast from the board I'm looking at, but now like my lips are touching the microphone.
That sounds better though right now.
It does. I should just always do the whole show like this.
It's funny because when you talk, it moves.
Glad there's no side profile. Number 37, Bailey Rail. Hey, do you think Brian's a good tipper? What do you think he's going to tip the
I was actually trying to listen in.
Nice. Hey, thanks for giving us a call. Thanks for staying with us.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
He didn't tip. I don't think he tipped.
He wrote something on the card. I'm going to say he tipped 10%. Brian, how much did you tip? How much did you tip?
He's a very math-driven guy, so I'm sure it's particular. Like I'm an emotional.
23.8%.
Wow, serious?
Yeah.
Told
Wow.
you.
That's impressive. You're a good dude. So Bailey Rail.
Bailey Rail has, as far as I know, she has never in her life competed in individual live competition. She's a team athlete by trade. She's made the choice to do this this online version of the Atlas Games this year. I apologize for those noises. So in my mind, she's largely unproven in this capacity, and so she's here towards the bottom of the list.
Can you say that about anyone else? Anyone else who's in the games this year who's never been in a live competition?
As an individual, no.
Okay.
She's a mayhem athlete, though, right?
She is, and she's been training over there with that whole contingency. She's actually the girlfriend of Tyler Christoffel, who's the guy who's petitioned to be able to take Roman's spot after finishing third in the last chance qualifier. But so she's definitely got a good training crew around her. From the athletes that I've spoken to who know her from competition, they were pretty surprised that she was able to make it as an individual. So maybe she has the potential to surprise us at the games. But when I have to make this list 1 through 39 and I got to put people at the bottom, I'm going to put the people down there that I haven't seen do it yet. And she's in that category.
When you say petition, is that just like you're trying to sound fancy? What you really mean is this guy found out Roman's not going to the game, so he DM'd Dave, yo, hook a brother up?
They wrote a pretty formal letter making their case.
Wow. Isn't it amazing? This is the best show in the CrossFit ecosystem, and the main brain of it has his mouth shoved full of food, because that's what you guys have to deal with, because that's how fucking podunk the media is around the game. Sorry, just my 2 cents. Got to deal with Brian.
I just need a couple bites. Sorry.
All right, that's fine.
He's
Yeah,
back
no.
now. Look at
Everyone
him,
should
his color
respect
in
that.
his
You have to
face.
fuel. If they want to get the information out of that giant brain of yours, they have to also watch you fuel up. Sometimes you got to fucking pull the Ferrari into the gas station and get gas. It ain't pretty.
Yep.
All right. Number 36.
Number 36 is going to be Caroline Connors. Caroline Connors is a regional athlete from Northeast region. We got to see her there in 2018. She's a misfit athlete. She qualified 5th from the Granite Games this year, and her coach actually said that they took a barbell out of her hand for an entire year leading into the season because she was so much stronger than she was good at the aerobic stuff, and so they really worked on the engine and building that up, and obviously it's paid off for her as she's made it to the games for the first time. You're going to see a pattern here that in the women's field, the rookies are pretty much all towards the bottom. I still think that experience is going to reign for a majority of the women. So she's a rookie at the games, first year, great accomplishment to make it. What's so funny, Jay?
Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed. I broke character. You were in a good vibe, and the barbell
Keep going,
comment.
Brian. Oh,
Yeah,
gee,
do
there's
it.
just the comments are great. Go ahead, Brian. It's a compliment towards you. Go ahead. Finish that thought. And by the way, I like it how you're saying Hobart kicked you in the balls for not mentioning she was a mayhem athlete, and now you made sure to mention she was a misfits athlete. Good adjustment, Brian. And also, I call it's hyperbole/lie to say she hasn't had a barbell in her hand for a year. Okay, go on. So go on about Caroline Connors?
She's a good gymnast for sure. She's a strong athlete. She's capable. I think that she's earned the right to be here at the games, but there's a difference between earning the right to be here and being able to compete with some of the best women around the world. We'll talk about the Granite Games women's field a little bit later on, and how I also think that it was the weakest of the fields for the North American semifinals on the women's side, with a little asterisk next to that one. So we'll come back to that.
Someone said, Brian, you're so good you could spit camera on the food.
And then
spit food on the camera.
And they
That's a
would
great
watch it.
compliment.
And then
And then
someone
what?
said you look even cuter when you're eating. I'm sorry, I broke character. That's me being unprofessional. I couldn't help it, man. It's too good.
And Dwayne, the only Masters you're gonna get is the fact that we've carved out a spot for Hobart as a regular on the show, even though he refuses to use his brand new microphone and headphones that he bought.
I just didn't bring it to Madison. I'm sorry.
Okay, number 35.
Number 35 is going to be Laura Clifton. She's from New Zealand. She qualified from the Oceania region. And in all transparency here, that Oceania region was weaker than usual this year because Tia was unable to travel there. Jamie Simmons is injured this year and not competing. But Laura Clifton is not technically a rookie at the games. She did compete in the online version of the CrossFit Games last year. She placed 26th out of 30. She was second at the Torian Pro. She does have some competitive experience dating back to sanctionals. Five of them, actually. 3 of them were in Australia, though, and she did pretty well at 2 of those. She'll have some decent performances, but I think overall she's just, still has a little bit of growing to do to be really competitive at the games. She's 26, so she does have some potential in the years to come. But I think, Laura Clifton.
You know, you could draw a parallel here. Like you could pick I don't know. This is going to go back maybe a little bit far, but you could pick a team like the Detroit Lions back when Barry Sanders was on the team, right? He's a running back. You guys remember him? Anyway, and you have a team that's just complete ass, but you have the world's possibly greatest running back of all time, and he was just on an ass team, and then he retired in his prime also, I think, and so this is in kind of not in defense of what Brian's saying. He doesn't need any defense, but and kind of adds to what Hobart said in the previous show. All 40 of these people are fucking amazing, but there are going to be relative to the pack some outliers down on the bottom, and so don't take it as Brian's being like overly harsh. It's all relative to the fact when he's talking about Laura Clifton or the Oceania semifinals or whatever the fuck they're called over there. It's relative to the fact that there's also a number 1 on this list that is like also an outlier. So anyway, bear with us. Keep everything in context. And the comments have been great. No one's completely lost their mind yet. Okay, number 34.
So number 34 is actually a woman who won a semifinal. She won the Granite Games. It's Ariel Lowen. And this was a very difficult one for me because as far as I know, she wasn't on anyone's radar to make it to the games, including her own. In her competition win interview, she said, "I decided to do the Granite Games because I wanted the name placard for our new home that we're moving into." And then she showed up and won the competition.
That was this year?
That was this year.
Who took second place? Did she beat any names?
Mallory O'Brien, Emma Carey, Alessandra Pecelli, Caroline Connors, Christy OConnell.
Oh my God. And you got her at 34. And does that say something about the Granite Games programming? I know we've kind of beat this horse into the ground, but
I just think that weekend was amazing for her. Everything lined up and she did great. And I feel like she, almost like out-kicking her coverage there, even by her own standards, it sounds like. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe she'll do exceptionally here relative to what I think, but yeah, I mean, I got her at 34. I would be surprised if she makes it through the cuts, but I was surprised by her at semifinal, so I'm not ruling it out.
Someone wrote something interesting here. Most of the Open was Masters. Is that true?
I saw that come through. I would like to actually see that fact check because I don't think it's the case, but
is he saying a majority of the Open registrants was Masters?
Yeah. Could see it as true because 35 is Masters now, right?
Oh.
Or is it?
Yeah, and Morning Chalk Up tracks that stat very carefully, and we are very conscious of, I might say we there, of Morning Chalk Up, of the Masters and what's going on in the competitive landscape there. I'm a huge proponent of that, and this is the kind of the weird thing about the Masters, where there's a huge contingency of participation, but when we publish stuff about the Masters, it doesn't receive the same number of views, comments, interactions, opens from the email list and whatever else as a lot of the other stuff does, and we track that too. And it's not that we want to discount that, but there's a couple people or a group of people in the Masters community that's very vocal about, hey, we need more coverage, but the vast number of people who sign up for that don't back that up in the support they show when we do put those things out there. Nevertheless, we put out our Masters to watch in every single division this year on the Morning Chalk Up at the end of last week. And I reviewed every one of those documents and gave my opinions and weighed in. I talked to several Masters athletes today. I love the Masters competition. I'm very happy that it's earlier in the week so more people get a chance to watch it. But those are just like, we are tracking that stuff and we are paying attention. And it's not meant as a disrespect. It's just like when you gotta put out content, you have to pay attention to what people are actually digesting.
And just so you know, whoever that is, I don't even know what their name is, has numbers in it. I'm not a fan of handles with names in them, but it's not that I don't care. I mean, look at how much I bash Brian. Half the show is me talking shit to him. So just put that in context of what I think about Masters and how much I talk shit about him. Alrighty. Number 30. So you have her at 34, even though she won the Granite Games. So she's a wild card.
Definitely
what's the
a wild
highest
card.
you would see her go?
24.
Wow.
That's huge.
All right. Number 33.
Remember that I said 24 when we get to number 25, by the way.
Okay.
33.
Hey, and when you do these rankings, give us an idea of how they come. So when you first see this chick's name, number 34, Ariel Lowen, do you put her like do you have her like in a pile of like between 20 and 40? Like, do you separate these? Like, how do you categorize them before you start breaking them down and giving them individual numbers? You have them in piles?
I have a color-coded system that I use, and it's basically the reverse order of the rainbow. So on my sheet here, it has the favorite in purple. It has who I consider to be podium contenders in blue, top 10 contenders in green, top 20 contenders in yellow, and then it's like the next group in orange, another group in light red, and a final group in dark red. And it basically just means, so I'm group them, and then within that group, I try to sort out, okay, amongst these 6 women that are in orange, what do I think is most likely to happen? Then as events are released and I learn more about the nature of the competition, like the cuts, then I make adjustments from there.
Do you ever make the piles and then like go take a shit or get a bite to eat or go do a workout and come back and then be like, yo, bitch, how the fuck did you get in here? And like can't even imagine that you put this chick in like one pile when she deserves to be in another pile.
Yeah, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night sweating because I feel like I fucked it up.
Serious?
No.
Oh.
But
All
I
right,
do make some changes sometimes, yes.
Number 33, Sasha Nieves.
Nieves, I think. She's from Argentina. Young woman, and very has potential to do very well. She had an open win in the clean and jerk event 2 years ago that was kind of mind-boggling because I think she only beat Sarah Sigmundsdottir by a few seconds. But third place in that workout was Tia-Clair Toomey, and she was like 70 seconds ahead of her. That was the Worldwide Open, so she beat everyone in the world except for Sarah Sigmundsdottir by over a minute. And third place was Tia-Clair Toomey, and you're talking about being first ahead of those 2 women. That's pretty cool. So she's definitely got some potential in some categories for sure. Again, though, we might be looking at a person who is very good at weightlifting that's not going to get to ultimately do the weightlifting test when it comes on event number 12.
Wait, what was the workout? What was that workout, did you say?
It was an increasing weight clean and jerk ladder with some box jumps and pistols, I think.
Man, yeah, that's crazy that she beat Sarah and Tia.
Her time was
And
her time
everyone
beat some
else.
of the men. Yeah, like a lot of the men, right? Didn't the women?
Yeah.
Time...
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anyway, similarly with because the next one up, we can go to 32 and just kind of talk about them here together. I have, just like with the men, I have the South American women ranked near the bottom here in the bottom quarter of the field and kind of back to back. I just feel like all of people from South America are still kind of forging their way into the real competitive ranks of the best in the world. And I'm not entirely sure if Larissa Cunha, who's 32, is better than Sasha Nieves, just like I'm not certain if Augustine Riquelme is better than Guy Mejeros. So that's a good example of me kind of just like grouping a couple athletes there. I don't expect them to back-to-back really leaderboard settles out, but I just think they're going to be in this range whenever their competition comes to an end.
That wasn't very convincing of why Ariel Lowen would be below Larissa. I mean, dude, that win over Sarah and Tia should just like automatically put her at the top of the unknowns.
Well, that's one event, and Laurie Cunha beat her in both the quarterfinals and the semifinals. Laurie's also put herself out there in some competitive settings that Sasha Nieves has not. She competed at both Dubai and Wadapalooza in the last year of sanctionals, and she had middle of the pack finishes of 15th and 19th in those competitions. She was set to compete at the games, I think, and then with the way that COVID shook out, she ended up not being able to. So this year will end up being her rookie year. So yeah, I think I know a little bit more about her because she's, made the commitment to be at some of the highest level competitions in the last year and a half or so.
Okay, you win. Number 31.
So a little bit of a shift here away from some rookies. Now we're shifting towards a veteran of the CrossFit Games. I think that most will think she's got more experience than she actually does there. In 2017 was her only year competing as an individual at the games. It's Jessica Griffith, but she did compete on a team that took second at the games in 2019, and so people will remember that. She snuck in as a fifth place finisher at the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge, which I kind of consider the fourth place finisher because Tia took this top spot, and then it was Haley, Brooke Adams, Amanda Barnhart, and then Jessica Griffith. So she's qualifying in one of the most top-heavy fields we had this year for women. Obviously, all four of those girls have multiple top 10 finishes at the games, and that finished ahead of her. And she beat out Christine Kohlenbrander and Fee Sagafi, who are both athletes that I think could be in this games field and have some influence. Christine's on the demo team. Actually met her today. She's very, very nice. So it was a great performance by Jess to get in. I just think that, once again, I think there was a drop-off. Well, she actually tied Amanda Barnhart on points, so maybe I've got her underrated here, but based on her experience and performance at the games before, I think this is, like I said, a strong women's field, so I have her down here around 30, 31.
I agree with your ranking. I disagree with the fact that people know her from the teams. I don't think anyone knows anyone from the teams. I think that the only reason people watch the teams is if their kids are competing or their spouses, and that the only fans that care about the teams are the ones who are curious if Mayhem's going to lose. They're just wondering if Mayhem's going to lose. That's the only thing I think the team's competition has for it. Other than that, it's basically like AAA in football. It's where you go to practice to be an individual athlete. And I think that her real claim to fame is that two things: that she hangs out with a lot of superstars. She makes a lot of cameos on big profile athletes' Instagram accounts, and that she was the fittest nurse in the world at one point, which is fucking cool. Those are my 2 cents on that. But I'm happy with her ranking. Hobart. Do you know who Beaker is from the Muppets? Hobart turned into Beaker for me for a minute. His lips went down into a frown, and I kind of saw Beaker.
I got nothing to add to that.
30.
Number 30 is 2 times. This will be her second time at the CrossFit Games. She's Amelia Lepenin. She's dating and has been dating for a long time. Yona Koski. She's she was a bit of a surprise to make it out of a very, very competitive European women's field. I've documented before that based on competitive experience in recent years, the European women have performed well enough at the top level to be deserving of 13 spots at the game instead of 10. Those 10 spots are determined by their open participation, not by their elite competitive performance. I don't have a problem with that. I just like people to know that the women in Europe are very, very good. So to make it out of that field is quite an accomplishment. She's a little bit older. She's 34 years old. But again, on the women's side, you can usually be a little bit better later in your career, or later into your 30s at least. She's got 2 sanctional finishes, 8th in Riceland and 10th at Filthy 150. So she can do okay in some kind of like what I would say is a mid-level sanctional competition. There's not the highest level of competition there. It's not the lowest. And so I think, the only other time she was there was 2019. She actually didn't do too bad at all. She got cut in 22nd place. So she has some potential to do better than this, but very deep women's field. She's a good swimmer, so she might get off to a good start on this weekend. I think she's just going to struggle to have a lot of top 10 finishes or top 20 finishes besides that. So probably be around down here in the bottom 10 or so.
Did you say she's dating Yona Koski?
Yeah.
I wonder if they share a bed at the games. I'm always fascinated with who's dating who. and how they deal with that at the games. Have you ever Hobart? Have you ever been with a? Have you ever gone to the games and had a girlfriend or a wife or whatever you have there, or boyfriend, whatever you do? Like who is a
we've-
competitor? Who is a competitor?
We've never competed in the same year, no.
Interesting. Because I would be curious. I mean, when I used to travel a lot for work, I would get my best sleep, just go diagonal in the bed. I didn't even know I was a diagonal sleeper. Brian, you sleep in a bed by yourself, right? Do you sleep? Do you sleep diagonal?
I'm a thrasher, man.
What size is your bed?
At my house,
Yeah.
king.
Damn. Diagonal.
Damn right it
Do you-
is.
Well, let me ask you this: do you go in the middle? Do you start in the middle?
No.
No. Okay.
You
Number
sleep on
20.
that's we gotta
No.
keep moving.
Go ahead. We got time, Hobart. This is our show.
No,
What, you want?
I was just like, if I had a king bed by myself, I would get in the middle. I don't know why you'd sleep on the side. It makes no sense to me.
Great question. I agree.
The reason is because phone or alarm or water or book or light are all I can reach them from one side of the bed.
Oh yeah. And someone else just said something great too. Georgiana Brain, you can get a room with 2 queens. Yeah. Ideally, when I went to a hotel by myself, I would get. Usually, I got the fucking huge suite because I was a baller. But 2 queens is nice because then you can put all your clothes and shit on one bed, like your phone chargers and all that shit.
I never
agree.
slept well at the games.
Number 29.
Number 29 is going to be rookie to the game this year, Lee Turner. She's 23 years old, out of Australia, third at the Torium Pro. She has 1 sanctional experience of 6th place in the Australian CrossFit Championships. Definitely an up-and-comer in the sport. A fellow colleague of mine, Patrick Clark, pegged her as a young gun to watch this year. Kind of a fun fact, Tommy, Patrick, and I each picked one woman at the start of the season as a young gun to watch, and they all 3 made the games. So I got to give Patrick the credit where the credit is due there. Good, great pick. Excited to see her compete. I think this is going to be one of those athletes that it's a big learning experience for her. I think we'll definitely see her back in the future. Good athlete, good competitor, just a little bit young and raw in terms of experience.
You know, you have people like Tia and Cara Saunders who are keeping like really Australia on the map. Is that fair to say? In terms of CrossFit, and you wonder what's going to happen if Tia fades out or Cara fades out. Is there going to be where's the air going to come from? And
Well, the other kind of, I don't want to say problem, but caveat to that is, as long as they're around, people like Ellie Turner aren't going to get the opportunities to compete. This year, she gets the opportunity because Tia wasn't there due to COVID and Jamie was injured. I mean, as soon as they announced that they were only getting 3 competitors before I knew that Tia wouldn't be there and Jamie was not going to be there, I was like, well, that's almost a worthless competition. Those 3 girls are going to show up and win, and no one else is going to have a chance other than the last chance qualifier. So it's actually great for her this year, the way it played out, that she gets this opportunity. So hopefully she makes the most of it.
oh, when you say Jamie, you're talking about Jamie Green. Jamie, that Jamie.
Yeah.
And what is she now? She's Jamie Simmons. You're saying?
Yeah. She married Elliot Simmons, also a former games competitor.
Yeah, I agree with you. If Jamie and Tia were there, they didn't have to do the event. You're right, and they could have just used that facility to lock down more Australians. Number 28.
28 coming in here is going to be Regan Huckabee. She's making her fourth individual appearance at the games, first since 2017. This is a great story. Obviously, she's a mother. She's, I think not someone people were thinking at the start of the season would be in this field, but she was really good all season long, with the exception of one open workout. She did really, really, really poorly on the wall walk event. But she ended up being 7th in North America in the quarterfinals, and then she snuck into the 5th spot on the back of really an impressive weekend at the West Coast Classic. She didn't ever slip up. She didn't let the pressure get to her. She executed across the weekend. She's awesome person, but I think, the field's really good, so she comes in here at 28.
I was going to try to show some restraint, but fuck it. I think Regan Huckabee might be the most beautiful female athlete. I haven't put her up against any of the men, but athlete competing. but I have a soft spot for moms. But man, she's glowing. She is glowing.
So is she your first pick of 5 for best bodies in the field?
I don't know if I can do the women. I'm too scared of the woke crowd. Okay, yeah, I'll do the women too. Yep, we'll put her as Regan Huckabee. She's beautiful all around. She is something.
Don't fear the crowd, Sevan.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I know. Why would I? I'm behind the walls of the palatial three Plain Brothers estate. There's really nothing that can happen to me. I have no Krypton. Number 27.
Kryptonite.
Thank you.
27. I mean, you can go on camera. I swear, it's all good. Yeah. 27 is Mackenzie Riley. Mackenzie Riley is another mother in the field this year. She's got some games experience of her own. Having best finish 18th in 2018. And she's got some she's middle of the pack every year. 26, 18, and 23rd are her 3 games appearances. And I'm excited to have her back in the competition. I don't think she was really planning on making it back to the games this year, but she's able to do it about a year after giving birth. So pretty impressive accomplishment just to get to this point.
Brian, when you say their placements for the games, will you say those just a little slower? Just because I want to write those down. So she's been to 3 games. So was she in your ranking? Is this her 3rd games? No. You said you told us her placement of 3 games she's already had.
This will be her 4th year, correct?
So she qualifies to be in the all-time rankings.
She does, but with the finishes of 18th, 23rd, and 26th, it just doesn't hold up against the other people who ultimately made that list.
Did she have her child in the did she go to the games, have a child, take a break, and come back to the games?
That's exactly right. She was off all of last season being given birth.
Man, that is savage. That is so. Who else has done that? Who else do we know have done that? No, it's Annie, Cara, Saunders, Annie Thor's daughter, Mackenzie Riley. Who else? Who else has done that? Do you know
Regan Huckabee.
Regan Huckabee. It's so crazy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of moms in the field this year, and it's really cool. Actually, I think I've known some women just in boxes I've coached in and stuff that train through their pregnancy, come back, and are still very good. And I know other women that are afraid to do that. And so I think it's great that even at the top end of the sport, they can be a role model in that regard.
Grow another human being inside of you. Birth it. Come back to the CrossFit Games to compete with the fittest women in the world. Nuts. Maybe they should have another. They have so many fucking awards at the games. They should give an award for fittest baby grower. Number 26. No, Brian does not have a list of hottest CrossFitters. His brain doesn't work like that. That's me.
26 is a recent guest of the show, Sydney McCullough.
Oh, so impressed. Holy cow, was I impressed by her.
And if you want to know about her, you should go watch the interview we talked to her with, because she's a really, really fun young woman coming up in this space. She's got incredible potential, just athletic gifts that it's very hard to acquire unless you just have them. She started a couple years ago, she had some gymnastics background. She's been really, really good with the barbell, winning the snatch event globally on workout 4 in the semifinals, getting 54 snatches in that competition. Pretty well-rounded, incredible work ethic. She said that her coach won't give her a key to the gym because she'll sleep in the gym. And she has had some weird injuries this past year, but she's been able to navigate them and get to this point. I'm really excited that she's made it. She was my pick of the young guns for the women, and she's made it all the way through. So I'm happy for her and excited to see her compete this weekend.
Hobart, I got a media credential, and I'm not using it. I wonder if I could pass it off to you after you're done whooping ass in the Masters division, and you could go back there, because you know what I'm really curious about, Sydney? She has something that's pretty damn crazy. Sorry, I'm texting at the same time. Podcast. She is mentally so confident. Wouldn't you agree, Brian? And I can't tell if it's just from lack of she hasn't had a beatdown yet, or I don't know where this confidence comes from. I don't know, like, and I'm so curious what's going to happen to it when it gets tested. She is crazy confident. This is going to be nuts to say, but normally I think that the men in general are more confident than the women and have their head on straighter. This chick has her head on straight, man. She is singularly focused, and I would be so curious if like, you know, maybe you could, like, if she loses an event really bad, you could just FaceTime her really quick with me. Could you do that, Hobart? Like, be there at the finish line as she's like crying and like FaceTime her. So
yeah, overnight me that pass. Let's do it.
All right.
Let
Good.
me carry the behind the scenes mantle.
If you are a competitor, do not watch the interview we did with Sydney. You will not like how easygoing and yet fierce she is. And if you are a young aspiring athlete of either sex, you should watch that podcast. I know it's a little self-serving to say that, but she is there's a lot of stuff to take away from her demeanor and her attitude. Number 25. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I want to let you guys react to this one before I talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, because you said 25 was the number that you wanted us to remember when we talked
Oh,
about.
man.
Who is it? Mine hasn't updated.
Jesus criminy. What's wrong with Brian? Do you do that just so we don't think you're perfect? Samuel? No, not Samuel. Samantha Briggs. Just like saying Samuel. Samantha Briggs, number 25. You're writing her off
Even with the
because
events
she's old?
announced so far?
What?
Even with the events announced so far, huh?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Really?
I mean, I want to defer to Brian. I'm so massively impressed by Sam Briggs, but
So am I. And to make it to the games at 39 years old, she's set a record by doing that. It's kind of in the same realm of a Jason Smith. I know. I mean, obviously her career accolades are much greater than his, but we're experimenting here, still in the young stages of this sport, to see what is the top end of potential in terms of age to be relevant at the games. Making it is an incredible feat in and of itself, but there are so many good women in this field. She's definitely not. I don't think she's 100% health wise. She has a couple things that are going to hold her back relative to the rest of the competition here. In her case, the fact that the 1 rep max snatch doesn't come until after the cuts is a good thing. She doesn't want that event early on. She wants to be able to navigate everything else. But there's, this women's field is crazy, crazy, crazy talented. I'm a huge Cindy McAlishan fan. I couldn't put her any higher than this. I'm a huge Sam Briggs fan, and I couldn't put her any higher than this.
Is Sam going to win an event?
I don't think so this year.
Someone just wrote that she could still win an event. You know what's interesting, Brian? There's 2 comments on YouTube that are, I think, that really sum up my feeling too. I think I'm totally on board with them, from Michelle and Anna. Basically, they say, Brian, I hope you're wrong. And I think that that's what it is, because we all know from watching her how good she is, and it's just hard to imagine her at 25.
Yeah, and I mean, I would just quickly say, and I know that he wasn't 100% in these years, but you remember Josh Bridges in his last 2 years competing, and he was in the bottom heat of the games, and it didn't detract from the way that people loved him, and it didn't detract from the way that people wanted him to do well, and he did have a couple events, but it's going to happen to everyone at some point where they're not going to be able to replicate the performances when they were at the top of their career.
Are you saying that Sam Briggs is the oldest female ever to qualify for the CrossFit Games in the modern era?
oldest athlete.
Oldest athlete?
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 24.
24, another veteran athlete, one of the oldest women in the field also here. Tremendous experience, tremendous, career. 8th time competing at the games. She was as high as, what year was that? 4th in 2013. Alessandra Pecelli. And it's honestly kind of a similar story to Sam Briggs. It's amazing that she made it here. It's great. She's very fun to watch. She's very good at a lot of different things. I just think it's a tough field to crack the top 20 in even. And so I have her, here a few spots out.
What's the highest you think Alessandra could finish?
18th maybe, something like that.
She's more well-rounded than Sam, right?
At this point in her career, I'd say slightly, like 1 spot on my rankings.
Okay. Number 23.
23. 23. I was really trying to find a spot for her in the top 20, actually. She has a pretty impressive resume at the games relative to what I think most people know about her. This is her 6th time competing at the games, and the real problem for her is she's just outshined by the other Icelandic women. She's Turi Helga daughter. She was 35th and 28th her first 2 years, but the last 3 years she competed, she was 19th, 18th. You're not writing them down.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll write them
And then
down.
she
I'll
was
write them down.
she was 9th in 2019, so she made it into the final cut that year, but finished
you don't
towards the
count
back of.
2019 or 2020. You just shit on those years.
Yeah, like a 9th place in 2019 for Brian is like a 23rd most other years.
Wow, you did that math in your head quick, Hobart.
Well, here's the thing. 9th place was actually last out of the top 10 that year because Anna Fragko popped for steroids, so she doesn't count. And if you look at the women that were cut in 11th through 20th, it's like Annie Thorsdottir, Laura Horvath, Carolyn Prevost, Brooke Wells, Sarah Sigmundsdottir, and I am convinced that if those women were given the opportunity to finish out the test, that they all would have beaten Turi come the end of the weekend.
Damn. Okay. So she doesn't make it to day number 4.
Not if these rankings are accurate, correct?
Okay. Number 22.
So we got a bit of a European run here. We had Sam, we had Turi, and now we have Jaclyn Dollstrom. Jaclyn Dollstrom is out in Norway, and they're along with Kristen Holte is representing Norway here at the games this year. It's her 2nd year at the games. 2019 was her first. She finished 45th that year. She was 2nd in the German throwdown to Kristen this year. 4th in Europe in the quarterfinal, 35th worldwide in the Open. She competed at 3 sanctionals, and she actually won 2 of them. She won the French throwdown and the Reykjavik sanctional. She was 4th in Norway the year that they had a competition there. So she's got a decent amount of competitive experience. I actually trained with her earlier this week for a day, and so I got to see the things that she's amazing at, which is basically body weight gymnastics movement. She's world class in it. But the heavier, longer stuff is going to slow her down a little bit, and I think that there's enough of that that's going to keep her out of the top 20.
Ryan, that's a great picture, by the way, of her. And what do you mean you were training with her? And does that make you biased?
I know.
I do a podcast with Hobart, and I still don't let it bias me when I'm choosing to see if he's going to win the games this year in the 35 to 39 category.
You're picking him either way?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, you guys are being really sweet tonight.
No, I went up and spent a day training with her and Gabriela Magawa and Christoph Horvath. And we did the podcast with Gabby. And so you'll know Christoph as the Hungarian bear, right, Sevan? You remember that?
Yep.
So they invited me up to train with him for a day, and I asked my boss, and he said, yeah, you got to take that opportunity. You don't get that too often. So, they actually asked me about the rankings in general, and I said to Jaclyn, I said, look, I met you here, and you're very nice, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go home and move you up 5 spots on the rankings. That's not a factor that I'm considering.
Like a professional.
Oh my God. I don't care if your sweat dripped on me. You don't move up in the rankings. Hobart, do these foreigners have non-English speakers as their native language? Is there a disadvantage they could have on the field of play by not being able to communicate with the judges perfectly, or is the language spoken with the judges so rudimentary it doesn't matter?
I think it could give them a disadvantage, but I think it's what you said. It's so rudimentary it doesn't really matter.
It's just like no rep or 7.
Yeah.
8. Okay.
Yeah,
and there's hand gestures for all that stuff too, right?
I think they probably all speak English very well.
Not if you're trying to do a podcast with them. Number 21.
Number 21. This is some people have called this CrossFit Games for her the Fuck You Tour. It's Emma Tall. Most people are familiar.
Incredible picture. That's an incredible picture.
Most people are familiar with the kind of journey she's had this year in terms of being announced as qualifying for the games, then having that taken away from her, having to decide if she wants to do the last chance qualifier, dominating the last chance qualifier, and ultimately earning her spot and finding her way over here to compete this week at the games. I think she is definitely a games caliber athlete. I think she definitely has the potential to work her way into the top 20. I also do think that she still has a couple things that could potentially keep her out. And when I settled on a spot for her, I have her here right on the border at 21.
So she doesn't make it to day 4 either.
Honestly, this is a really tough one for me. Like, I looked at all of her competitive experience. 7th in the quarterfinals, 9th at Dubai, 8th at Strength and Depth, 5th at the French Throwdown. But some of those are a little misleading. Like, I would consider the 9th at Dubai a better finish than the 5th at the French Throwdown, for example. And she didn't. Like, Jaclyn Dollstrom won that event. I have Emma ahead of Jaclyn here, but that's like, talking about 5th in a competition where none of the top 20 women in the world were at it, in my opinion. And so 9th at a competition where 4 or 5 of the top 20 women in the world, maybe, we're at it, then is a little bit better. So she has the potential to compete and hang with some of the best, but most of the best are here this year. We're missing Sarah Sigmarsdottir and Jamie Simmons, but we'll get into the top 20 here in a second, and then we'll go from there.
Hobart, when is your registration for for the Masters event?
Masters had already happened. Masters, all age group, or all ages, and adaptive, I believe, happened Saturday and Sunday. I think tomorrow is teens, maybe, and then teams, and then individuals.
Okay, and have you taken a COVID test yet?
I didn't have to.
All the athletes don't have to take some sort of virus test?
Not if you're vaccinated.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. And that's probably good timing, too, since the CDC released that they're having trouble telling the difference with the PCR test between influenza and COVID. They just released that. I don't know if you saw that in the last 48 hours. But I wonder, so if you're a vaccinated athlete, you don't have to take the test. You had to show proof of vaccination?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I wonder if it's like that in the Olympics, because I keep wondering if someone's going to pop positive, make the journey out there. And I always wonder if it happens to someone like Emma Tall, or like what if it happened to Vellner or Tia? I mean, that would be nuts, absolutely nuts. Okay, number 20.
Number 20 is another woman who's got 1 year of experience at the games, 2019. She was in that group of athletes that I just listed. I didn't include her in it. Emily Rolfe. She was 18th in 2019. She was a winner of the Granite Games in 2019. She was 6th at Dubai in 2020. That's a good finish. And 10th at Wadapalooza that same year, which qualified her to the. It doesn't seem right. I think it would have qualified her to the games, but then because of COVID, they had to backfill someone else. So she didn't. She had an invitation and got taken away from her. Otherwise, this would be her 30. But nevertheless, she's a little older, 32 years old, but she's pretty well-rounded, pretty good. She's won an event at the game. She won the ruck run, so she can go long a little bit. She can handle. She's pretty tough. She can handle like some odd object, get dirty kind of workouts. Decent swimmer, so I think the weekend starts out pretty good for her, and I think she'll be good enough to hang on and get into the top 20.
There's a little bit of buzz around her. Why is that? So many people have DM'd me saying we need to get her on the podcast.
Well, the guy, Nate Edwardson, who does this stuff with Vellner, he also films a lot with her, so maybe she's just a little bit more in the public eye and on the YouTube channels than some of the other, especially Canadian athletes.
Okay. I was wondering why he moved away from Vellner. Now it all makes sense. Number 19.
Number 19. So we're going back to Europe here. This is a woman who's been on the rise in the sport for a while. She's 31 years old, so she's not exactly young, but she does seem a little bit newer to the competition scene, at least at this level. She was 20th in 2019, same in that group of women that I listed before. 19th in 2020 in the virtual competition. She does have some top 10 open finishes in her career. She was 6th this year in the open, 5th in Europe in the quarterfinals, and first winner of the Lowlands semifinal event. So online, she's phenomenal. She's very, very good at like body weight movements, gymnastics, barbell cycling, burpees, double unders, rowing, wall balls, those types of things. She can go long a little bit, but I think that at the games, she's the middle of the pack. I don't even know if I said her name. It's Emma McQuaid, and she has actually been getting. No one has really been talking about her at all, and I think that just with the overall depth of the women's field, that's an easy thing to happen. Is have these middle of the pack athletes just kind of get lost in the shuffle. It's not taking anything away from it. It's just like they're not quite good enough to break down the doors into the top 10, top 15.
Yeah, you nailed it. I've seen her name a million times, and I couldn't pick her out of a crowd, but definitely I know her name. Number 18.
Number 18, this is going to be her 5th year at the games. She earned, along with Emma Tall, she earned her way through the last chance qualifier. And I think in this case, or really in both of their cases, the last chance qualifier is doing what it's meant to do. These are two women that I think were actually good enough to make it through the semifinal, and circumstances kind of kept them out for whatever they were. In her 4 appearances at the games, her worst career event finish is 13th. And I have her ranked 18th in this field. And that's what I'm talking about with how good this field is. She's 32 years old.
She's been to 4 games for a total of, let's just make it easy. Let's say there's 12 events at every games, or 13. That's 52 events. You're saying in her 52 CrossFit appearances, más o menos, she's never finished worse than 13th?
Her finishes at the games have been 8th, 13th, 9th, and 9th.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So her overall, okay, still crazy impressive. And a bit of a fan favorite, right? A little bit of a CrossFit darling.
Christina OConnell. I think I keep forgetting to say their name for some reason.
I think people like the little athletes because they got the David and Goliath thing going.
Yeah, and she was second to Tia at Mayhem. She was 9th at Rogue the year she competed there. She was 4th in the Open this year, 10th in North America. Got through the last chance qualifier. She's phenomenal. She's very good. She can have some top 3 finishes for sure. She'll do good in the swim. She'll do good in the running toes to bar event if she gets to it. She's good on her hands. So she'll have some good performances. But I think it's going to be a tough year for her to replicate that finish because there's still a lot of good athletes that I consider just a little better than her. And there's some also younger athletes that I think are going to bump her down a little bit.
Who's bigger, her or Emma McQuaid? Sorry, Hobart.
That's okay.
Christy, 5'2", 132. Emma McQuaid, 5'5", 140. I mean, that's what they're listed at.
So they're the same size, basically. Emma's a little bit taller, but they're
a little leaner.
They're both for CrossFit athletes.
Lighter.
That's interesting because you said Emma took 6th in the Open and Christy took 4th.
Yep.
And they're ranked pretty low. Okay, I mean, relatively. What were you going to say, Hobart, about Miss
No, I was just going to say just that. I think that I see all these questions popping up about like, oh, why is she so low compared to her last finishes? I just think that speaks to the depth of the field. Like the rest of the field from 18th to 1st. And the women's side, and it's probably you're going to see a lot tighter finishes. Like 5 seconds is going to be a whole bunch of spots.
Word. Number 17.
Wait, I got to get my helmet on for 17.
Uh-oh. Whoa, let me see. So I know who it is. Carolyn Prevost.
That's right.
I'm happy.
You're happy?
Yeah, I'm happy. Top 20. She gets to play the whole week. Yeah,
I mean, we talked to her and she has this a really kind of weird weakness in double unders, and it's actually I think it's bad to have that weakness in a big field like the Open or the quarterfinals because so many people are good at them. But at the games, if that's the thing you're bad at, it's a very specific skill. It doesn't mean that you're not strong enough. It doesn't mean that you're not good at gymnastics or that you can't go long or short or whatever. It just means you don't have that one skill at the proficiency level of the best in the world. But double unders are going to show up at most once in the competition. And so, fine. Besides that, she's going to be pretty consistent. She can do a lot of different things. She's incredibly athletic, and we know that plays at the games more than anywhere else in the season. So I do like her chances to get into the top 20.
She is a performer too, man. She knows how to compete.
I didn't know she like her personal stats are out of this world. That she's like represents Canadian national teams, taekwondo, hockey. She's a math, science, physical education teacher. Like what a badass.
Oh, her Instagram's crazy. She's a 4th degree black belt in taekwondo, and her training videos are pretty nuts.
That's so cool.
Okay, number 16.
We're getting into the realm here where this is hard because this is Amanda Barnhart. Her career CrossFit game finishes are 15th, 7th, and 7th. And she's, I would say, in the prime of her career, 29 years old. She's training with the Comp Train crew. She moved there this year. Everything seems to be going well there. But to me, she was underwhelming at the semifinals. And I have to look at those 7th and 7th. And what I mean by that is Tia was obviously dominant, but Haley Adams was the next most dominant, and Brooke Wells is the next most dominant. And Amanda Barnhart tied on points with Jessica, who we know has one previous individual games qualification. So for me, someone who's got 2 back-to-back 7th place finishes, barely sneaking into a semifinal, raises a little bit of a question mark or a red flag. James will happily point out that I discount some of those finishes from that year. I'm not saying that Amanda is not a great athlete, and I think that she actually had potential to do better in both of those years. She was on a bad ankle in 2019. Otherwise, maybe she finishes 5th or something like that. And she was 4 points out of making it into the Final 5 last year. Which kind of like, not to the same degree because she didn't get the exposure in the top 5, but kind of like an Adler, I'll just say that I don't know if that 7th place the last 2 years is representative of her true capacity in a full breadth and depth of test that the CrossFit Games traditionally is. I could be wrong about this one, but this is where she ends up on my list, and I'm pretty curious to see how accurate I am on her.
How tall is she?
Listed at 5'7", 160, but she has like the physical presence. It seems like she's bigger than most of the girls.
Taller.
Taller, yeah.
Her physique is absolutely nuts.
Is she making your list?
Hobart, what do I have to do to get those traps? Does she do a lot of shrugs? She does a lot of like.
You just gotta work out more, man.
Right.
You gotta hit,
You mean I can't do Cindy 5 days a week?
No.
Man.
Start holding a 70-pound dumbbell between your legs and do Cindy.
When you look at her body, it just screams hard work. What a fucking incredible specimen.
We also can mention that because we talked about it with Chandler Smith and Cole Sager on the men's side.
I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
That she does train with that Comp Train crew, and historically Bergeron's athletes peak for the games. Now maybe they were just risking it, and she was a little bit under-peaked for the Mid-Atlantic, and that's why she didn't have the performance that maybe we were expecting her to have. And she snuck through, and that's fine. And they got to the games, and maybe she shows up and she's a lot better than she was there. Even if that's the case, these women, like from here on out, like James was saying, it's a really competitive women's field.
You said she's been to the games 3 times, 15th, 7th, and 7th. Is that what you said? I'm mixing that up with something.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I moved on to the next athlete already on my spreadsheet.
Was she in the top 40 of all time? That we did top 35?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll say this too. More so.
Go ahead, Hobart.
No, more so than any pick you've made. This pick has received the most comments as far as why people don't think you're right, and they're surprises at it.
But still very respectful. This is like the nicest YouTube's ever been.
No, yeah. I'm not knocking anybody, but like a lot of people are like, "What? Not top 10?" I'm shocked.
Okay, number 15.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised to hear that either. I mean, it was at this point, these next several picks, all of these women are people I want to see in the top 10. When we get to the top 10, let me know who you would move out to move her in. Anyway, next up is Dani Speegle. Dani Spiegel's kind of a fascinating case because she's very good at very many things, and she has a couple, things that she's pretty potentially the last in the field, and maybe not last, but bottom 10 in the field in. And we saw that play out in the semifinals at West Coast, where she had all top 6 finishes except for Ruck Run, where she didn't, she wasn't even able to finish the event. She does, I think, have the potential to, win an event if it lines up right for her. She competed on a team last year with Jessica Griffith actually, and she has some good sanctional finishes from the year before that. But she was the outlier in the sense that she competed at more sanctionals than anyone else in year 1. Her finishes were 5th, 3rd, 2nd, and 8th. She was expected to win the competition. She got 2nd, and that was the Mid-Atlantic the first year there, and she lost to Meg Reardon. But then she got injured, and so then she was kind of coming back from that for a little while. I still think she's not at 100%. She's maybe close, but I think this would be a good finish for her. I was trying to find a place for her higher than this, but this is ultimately where I have her.
I think I remember when she popped on the scene and there was a huge hype train behind her that people thought she was going to do great. I think that she thought she was going to do great, and then she basically shit the bread at the regionals her first year. So she is that correct?
Well, she didn't shit the bed at the regionals her first year. I think that was the year that there was 333 at the regionals, and her running was even worse than it is now. She had a couple good performances. I think she was like 10th or something like that, and she might have even finished ahead of Haley Adams at that regional. Haley was only 16 or 17 at the time, but I thought it was a decent showing for her at regionals, actually, considering that it was her first one.
Gotcha. But there was a ton of hype behind her. Like I feel like there was some expectations that she's going to the games, that she's like the next big thing.
Well, and she's not, but sometimes you have that hype and that expectation, and it just takes a year or two. She made it in 2019. She made it in 2020. And now she's made it 3 years in a row. So she is a games athlete for sure. It just, sometimes it's very hard to make it your first year at regionals.
I'm actually surprised to see how high she is in this pick. I don't think she beats Amanda.
Okay.
I don't think there's anybody like more explosive, and then she'll have some really cool event wins, but I just don't think she's as well, especially with the first couple events. But
so you're saying she's got running's not her strong suit?
I think I don't want to misspeak here, but I think she has like some stress fractures in her foot or something like that, and yeah, it's pretty painful for her to run long distance.
And how's her swimming?
It's above average.
Okay. Well, it's going to be interesting to see, because that first event, that's going to be the mental test for a lot of people who aren't good at running and swimming.
Is there running in that event that
no,
I don't know about?
It's just paddle swim.
Oh, paddle swim? Okay. I have no idea. I thought he said run swim. My bad. Okay. Number 14.
Yeah, so I think this is another one that when people see it up here, it's Gabriela Magawa from Poland, and I think people are going to be surprised that she's this high and likely going to say, come on, man, she's not going to beat Barnhart. But just look at her competitive history.
Wait. Who did you say?
Gabriela Magawa.
Okay, we got the wrong picture up.
We do?
We do. Which is amazing. It says Michelle Bassinet. I think it's might be the right picture, just the wrong name is written on it.
Yeah.
Well, it should be Gabby Magawa.
Okay.
And she's the other person I trained with last week, so I just threw her 10 spots up higher than I wanted to because I got to know her a little better.
And Michelle Bassinet, that's the name written on the card. Is that's the she was number 39, 38?
39.
She's the one out of South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay. Not a big deal. Okay, so tell me about Magawa again. Sorry. So you trained with her a little bit, and you think she's the shit now?
I thought she was before that too. I didn't change either of their rankings after that. She was third at the teenagers in 2016. If I'm not mistaken, it was behind Haley Adams and why am I blanking on her name from Florida? But very good teenage athletes there. Kayla something. And anyway, she made it in 2019. She got cut in first cut, and I was really disappointed by that. She definitely has a weakness in her game, which is upper body pulling strength. The Vegas rope climbs got her on that one, which is too bad because I actually think she had potential to finish in the top 30 that year. She made it in 2020. It was virtual. She got 18th. But what strikes me for her is her sanctional record. So first year sanctional, she goes to Wadapalooza in Dubai, maybe the two best. She finishes 7th and 9th, very respectable. The next season, she goes to Norway. She wins it. She goes to Strength and Depth. She's second to Laura Horvath, beats Haley Adams. Then she goes to it's actually, I have this in reverse order. And she showed up at Dubai. In Dubai, she finished 4th behind Sarah Sigmundsdottir, Karen Freyova, who I'm so bummed is not in the games field this year, and Jamie Simmons. And Gabby Magawa finished 8th or better in every single event across that weekend at Dubai, of which I think there were 11 events. And even Sarah Sigmundsdottir, who won the competition, couldn't say that. Gabby is very strong. Trust me, she's very strong. She's very well-rounded. She does, like I said, upper body pulling is a little bit of a weakness for her, but I watched her do some upper body pulling that day that I trained with her, and she's clearly gotten better at it. Some people work on their weaknesses. James, we've talked about this a little bit, and it's difficult for them to improve. I think she is improving in that realm, and I think that she does have the potential. I don't know if of all these girls that we're getting in this realm, like if Barnhart finishes in the top 10, I won't be as surprised if Gabby does. But I think that Gabby can also beat Barnhart. Like I think she's better than most people know.
And of all I would definitely put her up there in the athletes that we've interviewed that seems the most focused. I think the only flaw that I saw in her focus, and it's not a flaw, but it's just like a red flag, is the fact that she does have a boyfriend and she does train with her boyfriend. And sometimes, that's look at Tia, right? But that being said, she seems extremely focused, and she views herself as a CrossFit Games athlete. Like she really sees herself as that. And you can't say that about all the athletes. They got either CrossFit. They either see it as CrossFit Games athlete hyphen something else hyphen something else hyphen. But she is she's CrossFit Games athlete, and she was an impressive young lady to speak with.
Well, all of the ladies that remain on this list, I think, see themselves that way.
You know when you go to a party and you're talking to someone and you have like one beer. Goggles on. I'm wondering when Brian trains with these athletes, men or women, what the equivalent is to putting beer goggles on him and affecting his choice. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never worn wrist straps in my life, but when I went to go film Miko Salo, one of the first things I did was I came home and bought wrist straps. I still have them. I never wore them, but Miko Salo had them and he wore them, so I bought them. So like when I was with Miko, it was like I drank 5 beers. I was like swooning. So like I'm just curious. Like he trains with this girl, and it must be crazy to be out there with her training, right? And it's someone at their absolute best, and I just find it. I wonder if it's is he doing more research or is it unprofessional what Brian's doing? We don't have to have an answer to that, but it'll be fun to look at that over the years.
I can't wait to see the comments for this one.
I mean, you have a horse. Let's say you own a horse and you see it running in the field. It's probably like the most impressive thing you've ever seen as it stampedes by you. But he's not even in the top 7 million fastest horses in the world. But shit, you saw him run by you, so you're like, holy shit, I just saw 1,200 pounds run by me. So you're impressed by it. So I just wonder. But Brian, your argument for all of her wins and where in the category she falls in, I mean, you defended it very well.
I actually think your argument works better for people who are fans of people who are already been to the games. And it's like, hey guys, don't forget, like the CrossFit pool is still pretty small, and there are probably some people out there who are like monstrously fit. Like Roman Krennikov is a really good example of that, I think. And it's like, everybody's like, oh, this so-and-so can't beat so-and-so. And it's like, well, you're just a fan of this person. You've just seen him go. And it's like the chances are there are still people out there that are way fitter.
It's funny you say that. In my early years of CrossFit, people would be like, hey, man, you get a fucking running back in here training CrossFit and he'll fucking destroy the pack. And I would think, oh, bullshit. But now, 15 years into it, like I'm finally as smart as some of the fans. Like I think there definitely are some people in some other sports that if it would still take a ton of work. It might be too late. If they're 25 and they try to switch, it might be too late. But there's definitely some genetics out there. I guess you could say that.
Well, Jason Hopper is a really good example of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe you can say that about any sport. So maybe it's irrelevant what we're even saying, right? Like the world's greatest shot putter is clearly has never been found, right? Because so few people do shot put.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a moot point.
13.
Sorry. Number 13. Thank you, Hobart.
All right, James, here we go. So at
Hobart made the list.
Oh, cool.
There she is.
I'm a super big fan of the younger athletes, and just because I'm a really big fan of the sport, and I think it just shows, again, like we were just talking about, how far the sport has grown and spread. Athletes coming to the games from South Korea, teenage athletes just smashing it. It's super cool.
Let me translate that for you, Brian, before you talk about Emma Carey, number 13. Hobart said he's a big fan of the younger athletes. No, what he is he hates the athletes who are still in there that he competed against, and he can't wait till the young people fuck him up.
Finally,
okay, go on.
So they can be washed up like me.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and Emma Carey and obviously Mallory O'Brien is still to come on the list. This was difficult for me to figure out where to rank them. And I said we'd get back to talking about the Granite Games. And this is what I wanted to say about the Granite Games is Mallory O'Brien and Emma Carey come in and do the open. Emma Carey finishes since we're talking about her, she was second worldwide in the Open. She was fourth in the quarterfinals, and she said, "I'm foregoing the age group online qualifiers, and I'm taking my one shot to make it as an elite individual female athlete at the games, despite still being eligible to compete in the teenage division." And she gets placed at the Granite Games. And I was so excited to see both of them compete because I was like, okay, doing it online is great, but let me see what happens when you line up against some of the best in the world. And then they both get sent to Granite Games, and Christy Aramo was there, yes, and we know that she's got 4 finishes of 13th or better at the games. But in my opinion, none of the top 10 women in the world this year were at the Granite Games. So I still haven't seen these girls go against the best in the world. Instead, I got to see them go against 35-year-old Alessandra Pecelli, Ariel Lowen, who wins the competition, who's showing up there just to get a name placard, according to herself, Christy Aramo, who fails to even qualify, and Caroline Connors, who makes her first trip to the games. So I still haven't seen these girls on the floor against their idols, probably. The Katrins, the Annies, the Tias, the Caras that they've been watching for the last 5 years as they're aspiring to be those girls. So I'm keeping them outside of the top 10 right here, but it's not to say that they don't have that potential. And no matter where they finish, they've already set history this year because no one who's eligible to compete as a teenager has ever qualified for the games as an individual before.
Brian, sorry, I know you said this. I just want to see if I heard you correctly. Are you saying that Emma Carey could, how old is she?
17.
So you're saying she could compete in the teen competition this year?
Both her and Mallory O'Brien could be, yes.
Wow. That is nuts. Has a dude ever done that?
No.
So that's only a woman thing.
These are the first two.
Amazing. This is
Haley
really...
Adams tried. She made it to regionals when she was both 16 and 17. She failed to qualify both years, which is fine. It was impressive just that she was there. She was that was her writing history. But these girls have both done it this year, and it's the first time it's ever been done.
Wow. And there's no question that it would have been Emma or Mallory who won the teen competition this year.
So correct. Well, there's another woman who was competing at Atlas Games who's only 16 years old, and she narrowly missed making it as well. Her name's Emma Lawson. But I think Mallory and Emma would have ran away with the competition. Mallory chose to participate in age group online qualifier and qualified first.
Why is there more hype behind Mallory than Emma?
We'll get to her in a second and talk about that.
Okay. Number 12.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, one more question. Well, you can show us the slide for number 12. Brian, when you do these rankings, are you trying to be right, or are you trying to be most logical, or are they the same thing for you?
I think they're the same. I mean, I'm using everything that I know about the sport and the athletes and the competition this year to try to put them in the order that I think is most likely for them to finish.
Okay. Number 12, Annie Thorsdottir. Wow.
Yeah. So this, and so Emma Carey, Anna Thorsdottir, Mallory O'Brien's going to be the next one up, and these three women were the three hardest women for me to place this year because just as much as Emma and Mal are unknown in my mind because no one at that age has ever done it before and they haven't competed against a lot of these women before. Annie, like Mackenzie Riley, is coming up. She gave birth a year ago. And she's talked about publicly some of the mental and physical stresses that have been accompanying her this year. Now, she's also done incredibly well in the competition so far. And we've talked about this before, she's basically been ahead of the game every step of the way. 118th in the Open, 9th in Europe, 3rd at Lowlands for Throwdown, and just generally feeling better doing those workouts than before. I've seen some clips of her training for the games, and her tenacity, it looks like it's there. It looks like she's as fierce and determined and driven to do well at this games as she ever has before. This is her 11th time competing at the games as an individual, and she's 31 years old. And she had to take last year off to give birth. We talked about her at length when we did our top 10 of all time, and we had her second place there. Certainly she could do better than this. But I think that this is a fair place to put her, given so many of the unknowns coming back from the traumatic and life-changing year that she's had.
Super physique. Like Mount Olympus shit. Like fucking Batman ain't got nothing on her. The fact that we get to see someone with Annie's physique compete in the CrossFit Games aesthetically is a gift to all of fucking humanity. I mean, she's she makes you proud, to be a human. What a super creature. And the fact that she's been in the game since the dust at Aromas, as Brian said, in 2009. What a special gift. We should all be thankful she's competing. And like you said, Brian, the mom thing is makes me want to tear up. It's so awesome. I do want to ask you this. If she finishes 12th, based on the rest of your picks that I haven't seen yet, will she switch places with Katrin Doder for the all-time top 10? Will she then drop from number 2 to number 3?
It depends how Katrin does.
Of course. Okay. Number 11. I know he ducked it. Ryan ducked the question. Come on.
I didn't. I answered the question.
No, because you know what Katrin. What if Katrin places where you have her placed?
That'll be tough. Then it would be maybe.
Okay.
Then we got to do another show.
Number 11. Yeah, good point. Christian Leon says Cara is the fittest mom. I probably agree with you. Mallory, we'll see. Mallory O'Brien, number 11, the young superstar, so much hype around her. Basically, no one would even know who Jason Hopper was if it wasn't for this Podunk podcast we do. But Mallory O'Brien has made it on her own without the help of myself and Hobart and Brian Friend. What is this hype about, Brian?
I think that the hype for Mallory as opposed to Emma is what she did at the Granite Games, honestly. I mean, coming in there, she was 5th in the open rank, 1 spot behind Emma, and she was 3rd in the quarterfinals, 1 spot ahead of her, I think. So they're basically coming in with similar credentials, and she beats Emma in the semifinal, but it wasn't really as big of a gap as you think. They both were coming into the final event having already secured a spot at the games, and Emma took a risk in the final event by trying to do the double dumbbell overhead walking lunge unbroken, and it bit her in the butt a little bit, so she finished pretty low in that event, but it didn't matter. She still finished 3rd overall. Mal played that particular portion of that event safe and ends up finishing 2nd and actually a few points behind Ariel Lowen for the overall win. But it's not that event that stands out in anyone's mind, including my own. She won 3 consecutive events at that competition. The only other person in the world who won 3 consecutive events at a semifinal this year is Tia Claire Toomey. I don't need to really elaborate on that, except for the fact that the way she won those events was incredible. She attacked all of them. We talked to Taylor Self, who attacked the dumbbell thruster workout, imploded, and ended up not making the games because of it. Mal attacked that workout, and when things got tough for her, if you go back, James, and watch that event, she gets to the round of 12, I think, and you can see that it's setting in like, oh my God, did I go too fast? But instead of buckling under the pressure, she finds another gear, she dials it in, and she finishes out the event the way she started, which is in 1st place.
Now, that was one of I watched that Granite Games. I watched that pretty much that whole competition. I agree with you there, the way she attacked things and her poise. Here's my thing. I just don't know how these athletes swim. And the games is a place where it's like, you know, the semifinals, you could be like, all right, the next workout's my thing. I got to get into my rhythm. There's just no time for that at the games. You have this swim paddleboard weird thing. Then you have this cheddar block Husafeld. Like every next thing is the next weirdest shit that's going to come up. And it's like, I think with these rookies, if they can't get into a good vibe after that swim, I don't see them pushing as high as into these spots. And that's not because of their fitness. I think their fitness is there. I think it's just because familiarity of being in the games, and as ruthless as Dave is, and just how unrelenting the games are in that sort of like, hey, if you weren't ready for the last curveball, you sure as shit are not going to be ready for the next one. So that's something I think about with them. And it's not because of how fit they are. I just, it's seeing their poise at the games and then just dealing with things like long swim, long paddleboard, weird events.
Well, to be fair, they both competed at the games before, and I know it's not the same in the teenage division as the individual competition.
Not even close.
No, but they did have to swim, and they can swim, and they did have to deal with some things that are a little different that you might not get in other competitions. And at their age, there's really nothing else they could have done to prepare for it than what they've already done. Also, last year, in replacement for the games that didn't get to exist for the teenagers, Mal did go and compete at the Pitt Teen Throwdown, and she won that competition. And they have some outside-of-the-box programming there, too, using their landscape and physical features of the landscape for their competition. So it's a fair point. Obviously, they do lack some experience at the games. I think that mentally, both of these girls are tougher than anything I could ever comprehend, especially at that age. And I do think that they have the ability to. This is what I was specifically was watching for at the Granite Games was when adversity struck, what would they do? And in the wall ball event, Mal started getting some no reps, and she didn't let it get her down. She adjusted and made it work. Emma started failing that dumbbell at the end, and it wasn't so much how she responded on the field. It was the way she talked about it afterwards that she was like, no, that was a calculated risk. I knew what I was doing. And it's this level of maturity at 17 years old that I can't fathom. And I think they have good people in their corner. I think they have a good shoulder on their heads. And I think that they're positioned to respond to those challenges differently than almost anyone else on the planet at that age.
Well, yeah, heck yeah. I mean, prove me wrong. I'd be happy to see that, but I don't see them this high.
Hobart, I was going to ask you something similar in that same vein. I'll just ask you direct. How much harder? So if you have one dog, 2 dogs is twice as hard as 1 dog, but 3 dogs is more than 3 times as hard as 1 dog. Anyone who's owned 3 dogs, shit starts getting. It's a fucking lot of dogs.
Yeah, we had 5 once growing up.
Yeah, it's insane, right?
It's 20 legs, man.
It's fucking insane. And so people don't realize that. Tell me the difference between a 6 workout competition or a 7 workout competition and a 15 workout competition. Because, and let me say one final thing for you answer. Even like when I've gone like on 20-mile hikes or something, like you hike Yosemite, El Capitan, or whatever the fuck that thing is you climb up, it's like an emotional journey. It's and the emotions that you see behind the scenes from the athletes is crazy.
Yeah, no, and I will say this too. I agree with Brian on this. Listening to Mal and Emma both talk in interviews, and we had like a company-wide meeting for CrossFit, and they came on and they talked to the group and introduced themselves. They're absolutely poised, and they're more emotionally mature at 17 than I am now at 35. But again, that being said, I just think there are so many things at the games that are unknowns that have nothing to do with fitness. And those are compounding factors, and those are really hard for some people. And you know what? If they show up and finish 11th and 12th or 13th or top 10, I'll be, pleasantly amazed and surprised. But I don't see that being the case this weekend. And it has nothing to do with their fitness. I just think because the environment is so new and the competition is going to be so fierce.
She's pretty protected, though. She seems pretty insulated, which might go to her advantage.
Yeah. So, hey, it's awesome.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Mallory O'Brien and number 10. Here we go.
Here we go. You're going to be pumped for this one, Sevan. I think. Good. So coming in 10th.
Emily Abbott. Oh, Danielle. Oh, no. She's at number 9. Wait, we have a problem here.
What? Emily Abbott.
We have a problem. We have number 9, Danielle Brandon. We skipped number 10. Who's number 10?
No. Danielle Brandon is number 10 on my list.
Oh, okay. So we just have the number wrong. No big deal. Number 10, Danielle Brandon. Very happy. Awesome. Great podcast guest. Little weird at first, little bumpy in the first 10 minutes. Once we all settled down, everything was great.
And tremendous athleticism, tremendous physical potential here. The biggest question mark for her is between the ears. And if she's able to just, I don't know what she needs to do to just be dialed in for the entire weekend. But if she's able to do that, I think she actually has potential to do even better than this at the games. A lot of people are talking about Carrie Pierce, Bethany Shanber, Danielle Brandon, which one's going to do the best here and there. And Bethany and Carrie outperformed her at semifinals, no doubt. And obviously I haven't gotten to either of them yet, so there's still ahead of her on this list. And I feel like Danielle has the potential to beat both of them at the games and actually to beat almost all of the women at the games. I don't know if she's figured out how to tap into that potential quite yet. So I think 10th is a fair place to put her. And she's one of those athletes that has the ability to do a little bit better than this, ability to do a little bit worse. Maybe like 5 to 15 is her range. And so I settled on her here at 10. She was 10th in the 2019 games. And it was kind of, I think, unfortunate for her that she didn't get that spot. Obviously, we didn't know at the time that Anna Fragkow was not going to be clean. And so she didn't get the opportunity to finish out that games. So she missed out on a little bit of experience there. I think she is a little bit short on experience relative to pretty much everyone else that's going to come up on the list at this point. So I have her here at 10th. I'm super excited to watch her. I think she has the potential to hit some home runs. I think she can, if she can just navigate some of the, kind of like Jason Hopper, if she can navigate some of the things that come up and then rebound from those and do well when she knows she can do well, that she's kind of a force to be reckoned with.
This chick has grit. She presents like a Bentley, but she's a monster truck. There is no question. Her psychology, when you talk to her, I mean, she's just like, I don't trust anyone, and I mean, she's a fighter. This chick has grit. No one should overlook her. She will go into the final event with no chance to win the games and still try to take first place in the final event and ruin someone's day. I mean, this is not a this is a prison yard warrior. This is a playground legend. This is a kid who stayed up late and till the sun went down and played in the yard. This is like while the other kids were running from the snake, she went inside and got a shovel and cut its head off. Don't mistake her looks for something that's not fierce. That's my thoughts on
James, I'm nervous that you're not going to like this next one.
I just don't want to. I don't want to say anything right now because I don't want to ruin Sevan's little his Jack Kerouac free thought flow.
That was impressive. I'm impressed with that one, Sevan.
I like this way better than where you put her on the all-time list.
Same picture. Brian, she deserves a new picture. Incredible picture, though.
We got Kristen's up there?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, Kristen Holta, I have her here at 9th. She has four finishes in her career better than this, a 6th, a 2nd, a 7th, and 7th. Her best 2 finishes have come the last 2 years, but in 2017 and 2018, against a lot of these women and against a full field of tests, she finished 7th and 7th. So obviously has the potential to be within the top 10 at the games. She is technically Masters eligible this year at 35 years old. She won her semifinal in Europe. We've already talked about how strong the women's field can be there. We know she can win events at the games. She can have top 5 finishes at the games. I think she's still relevant and competitive with the top 10 in the world, but I think we see a little bit of a regression from her this year. Not anything to do with her getting worse, just with the field continuing to be strong and a couple girls getting a little bit better.
I think that's the line this year is how good the women's field is getting, and how they're closing that gap little by little below Tia.
How you feeling? Good now, Sevan?
Does she speak English? Yeah, I feel so much better.
Yeah, she does.
And I say that because this just shows if you ever want to talk, if anyone wants to talk about what a dipshit I am, I can't ever remember interviewing Kristen Holta, and I hardly know anything about her, and yet it's for some reason she just stayed off of my radar.
Because she's quiet and just does work, man. She's so cool.
Yep.
And how do you know her? Did you train with her, Hobart?
She came down to one of those. We had like a Reebok athlete training camp, and she just came down for a couple of days and kicked everybody's ass, and then just left quietly.
Awesome. Where is she from?
Norway.
Oh, okay. That was supposed to be a joke when I said, "Does she speak English?" Because I thought maybe like you were going to say she was from North Carolina or some shit. Okay.
That was funny.
Thank you. Number 8.
Number 8, Bethany Shadburn. Winner of the West Coast Classic. Trains with Danielle Brandon and Carrie Pierce. She does have an 8th place finish at the games. It was in 2019. She made the final cut. The only person she beat was Turi Helga from that point on. But the main thing about Bethany Shadburn is I don't think she's ever been nearly as healthy as she is right now. We talked about a little bit with the men how health can go a long way in competition. The last couple of years, she has taken, and I don't want to say that other athletes aren't doing this, but she just advertises it more than just about anyone else. She's taken accessory work to the next level. She's doing all the little things in the gym all day long, every day, recovery, mobility, stabilization drills, to give herself every chance to stay healthy and be confident going into competition. I think she actually surprised herself a little bit at West Coast Classic with how good she was feeling, how well she was performing, and how well she was responding to being in a competitive environment, particularly against some of her training partners. She was regularly beating her times from training. I think even though she has an 8th on her resume, if she's able to replicate that or even improve on it, she's set up to have what I would consider, if even if not maybe her best finish ever at the games, her best performance ever at the games. Tremendous athlete, also incredibly nice and humble person. I hope that we get to know her a little bit more this year from that perspective. But I think from an athletic perspective and competition perspective alone, she's definitely one to watch.
Have you trained with her?
No.
Because if he had, she'd beat number 5.
Just checking. When you say obsessed, you mean like Lucas Parker obsessed? Or not that obsessed?
Maybe more.
Wow. Really, Hobart?
Yeah, check out her Instagram. She's always
Okay.
like doing some little thing, but it seems to be working for her because she did smash up the West Coast Classic.
All right.
And I just thought her positioning, like her body, the way that her body was positioned in every movement and every combination of movements was phenomenal. And you've talked about before, Sevan, how some of the best historically in the sport are also some of the best movers, and she is moving very well right now.
What was her first year at the games?
Shadburn, first year at the games, 2017, she was 22nd. 2018, 16th. 2019, 8th. 2020, 20th. So this is her 5th straight year competing at the games.
What place did she take in 2017?
22nd.
Yeah. So I remember that year. I think it was that year that she came in, and there was a lot of hype around her, and I felt like she lived up to it. She handled the pressure really well in 2017. Did she win an event that year? As a rookie?
I don't think she's ever won an event at the games.
There's a great comment on here. I have to read it to you, Brian. I love how people listen, but I can't tell if they're joking. But Brian basically just said, I think she'll get 8 because she does a lot of accessory work.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's a really good one.
That is good.
That's it. You heard it here first.
Number 7.
Number 7. Pretty curious to see how she does overall at the games this year because she's trained up her training environment. So this is Brooke Wells. She's training with Tia this year, and she's moved away from the comp train crew. And I think that's totally fine. I think that some athletes thrive under having the consistency year after year after year, and others get to a point where they realize, like, this has been great for me, but I want to go and see if there's something else I can tap into somewhere else. And she saw this opportunity and took it, and I'm curious to see if it manifests itself into something that she's hoping for, which I'm guessing she's hoping for her career best finish at the games this year. Last year she was 5th, which was her best to date. She has this history, not to the extreme of who were we talking about earlier, who was like bottom 10, top 10 back and forth, but 16th, 6th, 14th, 8th, 15th, 5th. So the pattern would say that this is set up to be a not such a great year for her, but I don't think that's going to be the case. She looked pretty good at the semifinals. I think she is doing very well training with Tia. I think she'll be in the mix from beginning to end of the competition. So, Brooke Wells, I think, is poised to have her another top 10 finish this year at the games.
I would love to have her on the podcast and hear the gritty's not the right word, minute details of how her and Tia started working together. Like, does she call Tia and say, hey, can I train with you? Or is it a really slow courtship? Like one time they work out together, and then they start texting back and forth, and then somehow they meet up somewhere else and work out twice together. And I'd love to hear the feeling out process. And because I'm going to speculate that Tia is very, very, for lack of a better word, protective. I'm guessing all the champions are who they led into that orbit for training. And the fact that she chose Brooke, or that Brooke chose her, I'm dying to hear the details. It would be fun to interview her and fun to interview Tia, and then kind of compare the perception that each of them had. And I didn't think of this until you said it, Brian, but it is true. There is something. I mean, obviously don't know her that well, but there's something like almost Noah Olsen-esque about her, like angelic, and lacks this switch. And you definitely, at least on the outside, and you definitely see it in Tia. So did she choose to go to Tia to mirror that, to sort of get that through osmosis? Because we already know Brooke's fucking an amazing athlete, an amazing CrossFitter. Was she just looking for that tiny little piece? And it would be fascinating to hear the details of that, hear her explain that. reflect on that. Maybe even if she hasn't reflected on it, just go deeper with her and get to the bottom of that. I'd love to see her do well. I think she's an amazing ambassador for the sport. Hobart, you have anything you want to say about Miss Wells?
I just like that it was a couple of years ago she did like the month of workout briefs on CrossFit.com. Like I said, that's my biased take, so I hope she does well.
You're a good dude.
Yeah, if you support the affiliates, I'm down with that.
Me too. Number 6.
So number 6 is a woman that I do think has that mental edge to show up and get it done when it matters most, and it's Carrie Pierce. Carrie Pierce is she's in kind of the gatekeeper position right here for fittest American woman, and has been for a while. Her career finishes at the games are 21st her rookie year, 5th, 10th, 6th, 5th, and 3rd. It's a pretty impressive resume. We know how strong the women's field has been in the last 5 years. She's been right there every single year. She finally got on the podium last year through a little bit different format, but it wasn't easy. I mean, she had the 5 women that were at the games last year are also in the top 10 here. In fact, I think they're all in the top 7, with Brooke being the one I have ranked the lowest of those 5. So it wasn't like I think it was a stronger 5 than the men's 5 relative to everything, and she did what she needed to do to find her way on that podium, and that meant a lot to her. I think she's having a good time competing with Bethany and Danielle, and that's generally a good environment for all of them. Obviously, I have them all in the top 10, but I still think Carrie has the edge to beat those 2 and to beat a lot of the other women. So I have her here 6th. I think she'll be right in the mix with the final heat from beginning to end of the weekend, and I feel good with her at 6th.
I hope she's on the podium. I was going to say she deserves to be on the podium, but the word deserves is such idiocy, and I've torn people apart for using that. But I hope she makes the podium. And we need to interview her, too. Her longevity is crazy. She reminds me of a UFC fighter who just keeps upping her game. Like you come in there and you're just all jiu-jitsu, and then all of a sudden, 5 years later, you're a world-class boxer, too. I dig her.
But longevity is the story of the women's field. I mean, this is her 7th year. It's Brooke Wells' 7th year. It's Tia's 7th year. It's 8th for Holta. It's 9th for Briggs. It's 8th for Pecelli. It's 9th for David's daughter. It's 9th for Saunders. It's 11th for Thor's daughter. It's just incredible the number of years that these women are able to not just come back to the games, but excel.
Carrie Pierce deserves a standing ovation as America's greatest CrossFitter when she walks out into the Coliseum that evening. You guys hear me? Thank you. She really does.
All right, top 5. Here we go.
Go ahead, Hobart. Say it.
Someone just said, Brian, who's paying you to make these decisive picks?
Brian can't rub 2 nickels together.
Yeah, seriously.
His refrigerator has like a Budweiser that he bought in 1974, probably still in it.
King
It was
air
a gift.
mattress,
It was a
not
gift.
really a king bed.
I bet you Brian saves every penny he makes for retirement already. He's probably got $12 million saved in a Bank of America account, making 0.5% on it. No one pays him shit. He's just he got a paper route on the side even.
He probably has 6 roommates in his hotel right now.
Yeah, totally.
Whoa, let's go.
Number 5, Katrin David's daughter.
Yeah, Katrin. I mean, we talk about consistency over time, and despite all the accolades we've listed for a lot of the women behind her, 6 straight top 5 finishes at the games, 2 firsts, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. It's just one of these women that I can't, until someone pushes her out of the top 5, I can't do it. She has proven that she can compete in every scenario, every format. It doesn't matter whether there's cuts or not cuts, online or live. It doesn't matter if there's 15 tests or 10 tests or who shows up to the game. She's always relevant. So I have her 5th here. Definitely has the potential to be better. Obviously, it's a very competitive field, but I'm very happy with her at 5th.
This girl's not going to go down without a fight. People say, you have to stay in your own game and you have to play your own game. There's an exception to this, man. If you want to win the CrossFit Games, you have to beat Katrin. This chick is freaking good at CrossFit. She knows what's going on the floor. She knows what's going on with her. She works her ass off. She's managing an immense amount of fame within the community. This is the alpha lion and one of the alpha lions in the pack, and all the other girls know it. Tia knows it. Everyone knows it. This is like, to see Jaclyn and Tia compete, I think is like as good as we're gonna get to seeing Matt and Rich compete. These are two, maybe not in terms of their quality of how good they are at CrossFit, but these are two fucking alphas. These are two bulls who are locked in the same pen together. And I can't say that about a lot of the other, athletes. Usually you know who the alpha is just by who's better. But this is, I view Jaclyn as a mental giant.
And it's oh man, I'm so happy you said that, because I'm watching the comments. And again, I think there are probably people out there who, in an online comp, in the gym, are fitter or would beat her in workouts. But Jaclyn is someone who's like, I'm gonna look at every little detail. If I don't have a knife, I'll stab you with a pencil. Like,
right.
she's
I'll
and I
bite
don't.
you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. My hands are broken. Oh yeah, I'm gonna chew your arm off. I just don't think everyone understands it at this games level. Like, that's one of the things that, aside from her fitness, aside from her training and coaching, like, that's one of the things that makes her so good. And these athletes who are in that top 5, like, I know, watching these other athletes, 10, 11, 12, the Mal O'Brien, the Bethany Shadburns, how fit they are. But it's like, do they have that willingness to be like, go out there and kill? So.
And Cara Saunders too. Someone mentioned Cara's name. That is true. I would love to see a weekend of Tia. I would love to. Who the media that gets access to the corral on the last couple days, if Cara, Jaclyn, and Tia are in there, should watch the eye contact, the body language. It is going to be, the most tense shit is not going to be on the floor. I'm telling you, it is going to be.
It doesn't
so
matter which.
tense.
Look at the women we've listed so far and the ones that are still to come. It doesn't matter which 10 of these women end up in the final 10. Yeah. It's going to be intense. It's going to be really intense.
But and I'll use Kristen Holta. I don't know her that well, but like, there's girls who mind their own business in the corral. These women, Jaclyn is bigger than her body. Like, if she walks by you 5 feet away, you feel her walk by you. She's not a I don't know how to say it. And
she has a presence about her. She has an aura. Like, you can't help but notice that she's there.
Yeah, and if Cara Saunders is like, if you're stuck in a prison cell with her, I mean, she gets to eat food off of your plate first, and then you get what's left over. I mean, these are not like. This is like real big boy time. This is like, these people have stuff going on about them that's like not tangible, and that the rest of us don't. You can observe, but you can't really put your finger on it.
And we talk about Brooke leaving the comp train crew and going and trying something else, and we have Jaclyn who's not doing that. Jaclyn is the epitome of, it's not broke, don't fix it. Her and Ben have a unique relationship, and always have, that clearly works for them. And they've experienced all the ups and downs of the CrossFit Games and CrossFit Games season for the last 7 years together. They're prepared for anything. They respond to the unknown elements that James was talking about that others maybe don't have that experience to, as well as anyone. They take what's given to them, and they figure out how to use it best to perform for them.
Ben and Jaclyn's relationship is, it would be great to hear a whole book about that, see a whole book. They have a very, what I've perceived over the years, a very, very unique relationship. They are extremely close from what it seems. It's I can't ever see them parting ways. They're like, when they're talking to each other, everyone else goes away. So there's that.
All right, we're getting into the thick of it here.
Number 4.
So number 4 is, I have on my list, is Cara Saunders. And for majority of the season, I had been saying there's Tia, then there's Cara, then there's everyone else. And I ended up making a choice here to put her 4th. And we'll talk about the women ahead of her, obviously, when they come up. Cara, for all intensive purposes, is making her real return to the global competitive landscape. Obviously, she was at Torian Pro, but she basically crushed everyone there. We already talked about how Tia and Jamie were not there. She did compete at Australia, in the coming back from pregnancy in 2020, and she won that competition. But again, none of the other women that are in the top 10 of this field were in that field. She was third in the online version of the Rogue Invitational, doing that again within a year and a half or so of giving birth and competing in the middle of the night. Incredible performance to do that. But she hasn't had this competitive experience against the caliber of athletes that she's going to have to go against here. And I don't know, like she trains hard and she trains well and she knows herself very well. She's definitely in a good place. She's super happy in her relationship and with her kid and with her businesses. But she's got a lot on her mind and a lot on her heart. Leaving her child behind was very hard for her. She's made the trip over here by herself. I mean, yes, she's training with her friend Dan Bailey and they've traveled up here together. So she has some support, but she's set out here to do something that's pretty challenging. She's going into an environment that, yes, she has a ton of experience. This is her 9th year at the games, but I think that the level of the women competing has raised since the last time that she's really been in this environment. And while I think she can do great, and I won't be surprised if she does podium, I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging than I originally thought for her when I sat down and looked at the rest of the field.
Were you on the podcast, Brian, when we interviewed her, or was that just me?
I was on it.
You were on it. She I can't tell. I don't believe her. I know I don't believe this. She made it sound like she's not going to win, that she's just going to do her best. And I don't believe her for some reason. I can't tell whether she conveyed that to us because she's trying to let pressure off of herself or if I misunderstood it. I think I said everything I need to say about her previously. She is fierce. I think that it's a shame that she hasn't won already. Because I think she could have if it wasn't for a few injuries or whatnot had happened to her. But she's got it. Whatever it takes to win, she's got it. Number 3.
So number 3 is the woman who I expect to take over the crown of fittest American woman, and really the next force to be reckoned with in the sport, in my opinion. Haley Adams, I've told stories about meeting her before and about her toughness and ferocity and just having that mental edge that you can't teach anyone. The Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge was a great opportunity to watch her compete against Tia and see her. She was a little, she's 5% behind her in every workout, but she was 5% ahead of the rest of the field. And when we're stacking up this incredibly talented field of women and we're trying to find someone who has the capacity to get on the podium, I mean, she has a lot of competitive experience for 20 years old, and even though she's the 3rd youngest in the field, her resume and pedigree is not representative of someone who's 20 years old. 3 times to the games as a teenager, second, first. 2 times to the games as an individual athlete, 6th and 4th. Yes, it was in 2019 and 2020, but what that also means, even though she didn't have to necessarily go against the full field or the full test, is that she did get to see the full test. So she has the experience of doing 12 events in 2019. She has the experience of not only the online, but then the full test in 2020 at the ranch against Tia, against Katrin, against Brooke, against Carrie Pierce, against some of the best in the sport in the last 5 years. She's competed at strength and depth. She was 3rd, Wadapalooza 5th, Rogue 8th, Reykjavik 2nd, strength and depth 7th. She's never lower than 8th in the 5 sanctionals she's competed at. She's giving herself an opportunity to go against all of these women in all these different environments. I think she is incredibly impressive. It doesn't matter how many times I see her, just for her size and her body type, the things she can do and the toughness she has is impressive and mind-boggling. I hope everyone gets to appreciate that this year at the games in the way that I think that they will. So I have Haley at 3rd. It's tough. It's tough to put her ahead of Katrin. It's tough to put her ahead of Cara. Some people could say, man, how can you do that? And when you say about all these other people, until I see them do it, I can't put them up there. But in the case of Haley, I feel like I've seen enough that she is worthy of a podium finish at the games.
Anything, Hobart? I got something.
No, I'm a huge fan of Haley, and watching her career come up is absolutely amazing. And again, I remember meeting her at I forgot what regional it was a while back, and I think she was very young, and she, again, same thing, just super poised, kind of like in the same way that Mal and Emma was. And like I said, because of that, maybe I eat my words because they crush it too this year. But her growth has also been amazing. So I don't think it's a bad pick, Brian. I wish I could disagree with you more.
Two things here. Matt Souza wrote, if you guys are enjoying the podcast, hit the like button. I don't see why you can't hit the like button if you don't like the podcast either. If you're not enjoying it, just hit it, just for whatever reason. Just
if you're watching it.
Because it's fun just clicking something on the screen. I think that Haley better make her move this year because shit's about to get real. And I think that if she doesn't really turn up her game, that I know you guys aren't saying this, but there might be implications that she's the heir to Tia's throne. And man, these other two girls, Emma Carey and Mallory O'Brien, might ruin Haley's next 10 years. They might fucking turn her into the Scott Panchik of CrossFit. And I mean, it was really nice that Katrin and Annie took turns winning the CrossFit Games 2 apiece. It's nice, that you get these people so we can have a lot of stars at the top and enjoy the competition. But man, this girls' class, this woman's class is going to be fierce. And I think that we'll see. I know she's really young, but these other girls are really young too, and it's going to get nasty in there.
That's a good point. I don't like that heir to the throne thing, and here's why. How many championships does Tia have?
17.
Okay, yeah, she has 4.
Okay.
You're right. You might be like the next up and coming champion, but until you get 4 champion, like someone wins this year and they're like, oh, they're the heir to Matt Fraser's throne. Like, shut up. No, they're not. They won the CrossFit Games, and that's incredible and amazing. When you win 5 and then win a 6, okay, then we'll talk about it. But anyway, I just wanted to gripe about that one thing.
Hey, that's totally fair. And you know what? Matt and T have kind of ruined it for everyone else, at least for a few years.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take for us to forget how good they are, because it's not going to be enough when someone wins once for us as fans of the sport.
And that's not to discredit anybody's performance, but it's just like
I agree.
Anyway.
Number 2. This one's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so, in some capacity, you could say that my second place picks on both the men's and women's sides are a bit of, maybe they're the stretch picks or the outlier picks, or people might say, man, that's pretty high to have them given what we don't know about Hopper and what the relative history of Laura Horvath has been. But I am super, super high on Laura Horvath making a return run to the top of the women's field this year. I think that what we saw in 2018 was not a fluke. I think she actually is that good and can be that good. In fact, I think she can be better than that. I don't think that the one hole in her game of the strict deficit parallel handstand push-up or whatever it is going to prevent her from being right at the top of this field over 15 tests. Okay, we've seen Rich Froning take 33rd in a workout and win the CrossFit Games. We've seen Brent Fikowski take 3 finishes in the 30s and still finish 4th at the CrossFit Games. You can have a bad finish at the CrossFit Games and still have an amazing CrossFit Games. 10 events before any cuts, it's not going to be an issue for her. She's going to do great in the water. She's going to do great with the pig. She'll run okay. She's great on her hands. She'll snatch fine, over 200 pounds, be good enough. She'll do good with the rope climbs and the ski erg and the sled pull and everything else that we've seen that's come out so far. She can cycle a barbell. She's pretty good at gymnastics. And I think mentally and emotionally, she's in a better spot than she's been in the last 3 years. I think that she's got possibly the best person in her corner that you could hope to have in Ben Smith, with just all of the experience and wisdom that he has to share. I think he's actually excited about being in that role, and being back in the games in this capacity this year is a new thing for him. I think he's looking forward to seeing her bounce back and be the athlete that a lot of people have been expecting her to be. She won the Europe quarterfinal. She was second in the Lowlands throwdown to Emma McQuaid. We already talked about how great Emma McQuaid often does in online competitions. That online qualifier had 60 ring muscle up. She's not exactly a small girl. She did fine on that event. I'm super excited to see Laura. I think that she won 3 events in her first year at the CrossFit Games. I think we might see her win 3 events this year too. I think she's going to have a slew of top 5 and top 10 finishes. I don't think that she can challenge Tia for the win, but I think she has what it takes to beat everyone else in the field.
I like this pick. I hope you're right. It'd be great to see her do good. What I find most interesting about this pick is how you said something about you damn well know that handstand deficit push-ups are the thing that everyone talks about when it comes to her. She must fucking hate that. Everyone's tired of hearing it. But just now when you mentioned it, Brian, I saw you do something that's very uncharacteristic of you, and you said, yeah, whatever about her handstand push-ups or negative handstand push-ups or whatever. Like, you didn't even want to acknowledge that anymore. So what's going on with that? Are you sick of it too?
Well, this is, James has asked me about this subtly in a couple different contexts, and we haven't really addressed it. But I do think that sometimes there's just a skill that no matter how much you work on it, you're not going to get to be as good as you want to be at it. And the one thing that could potentially ruin her weekend is if there is a workout like there was at Rogue Invitational that has those, and it has a minimum work requirement that dictates if you can't do this, you can't advance in the competition. Outside of that, I'm not worried about it. She's going to make it to the weekend. She's going to have 14 other events to dominate.
Someone wrote, he trains with her brother, and bam, she's second. I agree with you, Brian. I don't think her 2018 was a fluke. I think Laura's super smart athlete, really awesome person, good head on her shoulders, fierce competitor. I would like to see her back in the top 10, and I think she has the work ethic and the know-how to do it. But, man, this is a hell of a pick.
I hope she makes the podium. I hope that Carrie Pierce makes the podium. Everyone is impressed with Laura Horvath. You never hear anyone say anything. She's like awesome. All the film crews, the media, all the athletes I know that have ever trained with her come back jaw dropped, like, oh shit. So she's doing something right. Does she speak English?
Yeah, I think she's getting better.
Let's get her on the podcast.
Yeah, we definitely
How old is she, Brian?
24, 25.
God, a child.
24,
okay.
Yeah.
Number one.
Number one, Tia Claire
Brian,
Toomey.
you better have picked a great picture. Ryan, you should have picked
Mayer.
a video for this. You should have
Tia
picked
Toomey.
Travis Mayer. Not bad, Ryan. Not bad. I would have liked a video for Tia, though, Ryan. Like that video that Lillian Fuentes made of her walking towards the camera.
Tia Claire Toomey. 4 straight first-place finishes at the Games. 5 for 5 in sanctional she showed up to. Won the Open for the first time this year. Won the quarterfinals. Won the semifinals. I don't know if I need to say anything else, but I have written an article about her that's coming out on Morning Chalk Up Wednesday morning when the game starts that talks about what this means if she's able to do it. And it also acknowledges that no matter how dominant that she's been and no matter how dominant anyone's ever been in the sport, there is nothing easy about winning the CrossFit Games. It is an incredibly physically and mentally and emotionally challenging week. And even when someone's done it back to back to back to back years, they have to go out on the floor and perform. Obviously, she's proven that she can do that head and shoulders ahead of the women's field, but that doesn't take away from any of the accomplishments and the way that she's continuing to rewrite history.
She still has to manage the pain that all the other athletes are going to have to manage.
Correct.
And just know that she manages it better.
How impressed are you by her, Hobart? What can you say about her that's not like...
I've told this story a lot, and to people I've talked to. In 2019, when she stood that cleanup in the Coliseum, and you talk about athletes like having an aura and a presence, I've never seen a CrossFit event go so insane when she stood that. Like, she owned that room. She could have just pointed at people and been like, hey, you, go get me a hamburger. You, shake my seltzer water up. You, sit down and make me be my stool for the day. And they just would have done it, man. It's just everything about her, I think, is exactly why she's going to be the 5-time champ. And hopefully 6.
James talking about that makes you think about this also. So that the only way that moment happens is with a competitor like Amanda Barnhart pushing her to not just to the last bar, but beyond that to barbells that Dave wasn't even planning on having these women lift. And you think about the history of Tia and the different competitors that have risen up and challenged her in all these different capacities, from Cara in 2017 to Laura in 2018 to all the different athletes that took their shot in 2019 and 2020 in these different events. And it doesn't matter what you throw at her, who comes out of the woodwork, which young athlete emerges. She rises to the challenge and just beats them down left and right. It's incredible.
Let me throw this out there, and I don't know if this is true or not. you guys tell me if this is true. Not only is she the greatest female CrossFitter ever to live, and she's going to be, just by the number of games wins and all her stats, that this year if she wins, she'll be tied with the greatest CrossFitter of all time, Matt Fraser. But what it looks like from the outside is that Matt went to train with her. And by that, I mean, it feels, and I should ask Matt this next time we do a podcast, that it was her and Shane and Matt joined them. Imagine, and Matt is extremely calculated. He would not have done anything out of just pleasure, right? He wouldn't have done anything that didn't make him better. So for some reason, even Matt Fraser, the greatest CrossFitter who ever lived, chose to train with her. And it's I mean, the only compliment better than that is that she won the games, right? That she beat all these other women. Oh, look, here we got a video. Good job.
Yeah, man, this video gives me goosebumps, man. Like, she's out of control.
This is the 2019 you're talking about?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Well done, Ryan. Yeah, it's she is. There's something going on. That's there's something going on with her, and that's what's going to be great about seeing what happens to Brooke Wells too.
Watch her stand this up and just own this place.
Is that bar supposed to bend like that?
Oh God, this was so good.
The smile and everything. Man.
Amazing. That's so cool.
And another fabulous thing, obviously, is that if you've been following CrossFit for long enough, is that we saw her sort of grow up into becoming this mature woman, right? She shows up at her first games, and she's a little more timid, and she's still amazing. And now we've seen her, like, you know.
Yeah, like, she's someone, like, you watch her work out and win, and you're like, she makes you believe you could do stuff that you can't do. You don't see a lot of athletes in any sport who make you feel like that. Cool.
Meaning she's accessible. You look at her and she's accessible just by looking at her.
Yeah, or she just has like enough aura where it's like she just has enough to give out. You know, it's like she's like, I don't need this. You can have some too. It's amazing.
Whenever I used to see you work out, James, it's not that I thought I could do that too. I thought, well, fuck, if he can do it, why can't I do it? But different.
Very different. I think.
Here's the scariest thing. Here's the scariest thing about Tia. There are 23 women in the field this year older than her.
Wow.
She's only 27 years old. She could do this for 5 more years.
I'd love to see her drop a year and come back, just to
test your theory.
Oh yeah, and it would just be a crazy hype train. It would be a crazy hype train. To retire and come back would be a crazy hype train. Think of the people that would lose their mind if Matt or Rich came back. And the thing is that if you're gonna make you can say, well, other people have taken a year off and come back, but no one's taken a year off and come back who people thought could win. And those 3 are definitely in that list. So, Hobart, is there anything you'd like to add here? Thanks for staying up so late for us. We know you're competing this week. Super excited to see you compete.
That was
honestly,
awesome.
You the man.
Thank
Brian,
you.
I don't know what you're doing this week. Brian, are you in? Who are you working for in Madison this year?
CrossFit.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. I did. Well, I didn't know that until earlier today. Someone said, "Hey, I think Brian's working for CrossFit this year at the games." They didn't say it like that. They were a little more aggressive, but that would be my.
It's not my first year doing that.
I understand.
He's hanging out with me tomorrow. That's what Brian's doing.
Are you guys hanging out?
We're gonna throw some barbells around.
Do you think you're gonna get to see James compete, Brian?
100%, yeah.
You're gonna be there. And if you see him, if you see any advice to give him, will you yell at him and give him advice, or will you use the excuse that he knows better since he has so much experience?
I will not bother him while he's competing.
You can bother me all you want, man.
I'll say, Bailey is beating you again. Pick it up.
Oh my God, my mom just commented. Great podcast. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate that. That's awesome. That's really cool. And no one said anything vile in the comments in the last 4 hours. That's impressive.
No, comments were awesome.
Thank you very much, everyone. We will continue to bring you as much information as we can gather that we find interesting. I don't know when the next Josh, Matt, and Sevan podcast is happening. Could be any day. It could be later on tonight for all I fucking know. And we're out. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.